André Lovatt is from the Arts Centre.
Ngā mihi nui te ahi ahi. Thank you for the introduction, and thank you very much for being here today to hear what we have to say about the Arts Centre. Our story starts with the College or Great Hall, which sits in the western portion of the site. And I want to start here because for us, unfortunately, the College Hall and its construction 131 years ago flags two things that we all know far too much, or far more than we ever thought we would in our community. It was delayed by two things. The first was the lack of money, and the second was earthquakes. And I think in terms of thinking about the future of our city, this is a really powerful image because this is one of the few buildings of Benjamin Mountford's that's left, and Mountford was really at his peak when he did this. But this building will be open in the middle of next year. And so what I want to tell you about is some of the background to what's gone on at the Arts Centre, and to give you an insight into some of the things that I think have made it work so far. So the site, for those of you who don't know, is an entire city block. It sits in the western portion of the city. The built area is 18,500 square metres. 23 buildings, all but one of them all but two of them are Category 1 heritage listed. And that makes it very much New Zealand's not only largest but arguably most preeminent heritage site. The site was built initially in the western portion around the clock tower in 1877, and the site had its origins as the home of Canterbury College, which then became the Canterbury University. Canterbury University was at the site until 1977, roughly 100 years, and at various stages through that history, Christchurch Boys High and Christchurch Girls High were also there. So in 1978, as the university left the site, the Arts Centre Trust Board was formed. And the Arts Centre Trust Board's purpose is to foster, accommodate and facilitate the arts, culture and education. And a key thing is that we are, the beneficiaries of the trust are all of you, the people of Christchurch and New Zealand, which is, I think, an incredibly powerful thing. Obviously, the site has been closed since February 2011. No one was killed at the Arts Centre site, thankfully, but there was obviously drama and trauma experienced at the site in the aftermath of the events, and that wasn't unique to us. But as obviously many in Christchurch were doing whatever they could do to save their buildings and prevent further damage, we were very much in a very responsive mode to try and secure and prop the buildings. And I think a lot of that work actually saved the site from further damage. In addition to that, there were three other things that went on. In the 1980s, there was a 10-year period of seismic strengthening on the site. That seismic strengthening was seeded by money from the Christchurch City Council. It was really number 8 fence wire type work, but it did make the difference between seeing widespread catastrophic failure and indeed in the earthquakes we only had two aspects of the site that collapsed, and I've just showed you those. The second area was that the majority of the site didn't suffer any geotechnical damage. We suffered we benefited from a lot of dumb luck, as I describe it. We're very close to rivers and 2 underground streams, so that was fantastic that didn't become an issue for us. And as I said, the early hours of the response were, those adrenaline-fueled hours, days and weeks were really effective in propping and securing the site. And in fact, in parts of the site, you can see today that a lot of that propping is still in place. So the focus that we have at the Arts Centre at the moment is all about restoration. There's 100% commitment to restoring the site as far as we can. And our understanding of how much that's going to cost and how long it's going to take is fairly accurate, but we're looking at a $290 million program over a period of to 2019. You get an idea of the overall challenge when we start talking about money, when you understand that our funding position as a result of our insurance settlement was $165 million. Obviously, value engineering is a really key part of what we're doing now. We're incredibly careful about how we spend our money, in other words, how we procure our work, and we're also fundraising. We're building a fundraising effort. Between now and the middle of next year, we will open 9 buildings on the site, comprising 52% of the built area. And significantly, to me and to those of us who are involved in the project, we'll once again be able to welcome people back into places like this, College Hall, and the north and south quadrangles. So that really represents a high level of effort and in my very simple language, people getting on with it. And I want to expand on some of the lessons that we've learned. So the immediate picture that we have is one of graft amongst progress. We're learning heaps as we go, and the key lessons can't be explained without first thinking about governance. Now, the Arts Centre is an independent charitable trust, and in 2012, trustees decided to take control of the site's destiny by settling with their insurance companies. Despite the immediate shortfall in funds, this settlement provides the funds to kickstart the restoration effort. And without links to the wider development activity that's going on in the rest of Christchurch, we've been able to establish a really clear plan for how we're going to deliver our work. We've been able to engage with contractors in a supply chain with really clear principles. And as you know, in the last year, there's been building contractors looking for work, and quite frankly, we've taken advantage of that. The second one is about vision. Now, half of 2013 was dedicated to developing a vision for the fully restored and reactivated Arts Centre. Now, that's because this place is more than the bricks and mortar. The bricks and mortar are so important, but it's about people. It's a community place. So a vision is required to guide the restoration, but it's also required to constructively manage a process of change, because there is going to be change in terms of what the Arts Centre becomes compared to what it was. The Arts Centre's never engaged at all with the public on a consultation before, and we ended up having a citywide engagement process and consultation, which sought to really harvest ideas, not in a share an idea way. We put some of our ideas out there and received feedback on that. But what we wanted to do was try and give people a stake in what we're doing at the Arts Centre, and I think the proof will be in the pudding, and I'm absolutely optimistic and positive about the future at the Arts Centre, and I really can't wait to see the public's response to seeing the vision of the Arts Centre taking effect as it's reactivated. The third lesson is about money. Anything's obviously possible with time and money. As engineers, we know that. At the Arts Centre, we see these two things as being linked. We can't afford to weather the storm of a cost escalation bubble, and delay means a lot of increase in cost to us. And so we've accelerated our program because it saves us money. That's why in the last year we've pulled about 2 years out of our overall development schedule. The other point is that faithfully restoring heritage is very, very expensive. I've shown you a couple of images of College Hall. We're spending $20,000 a square metre in College Hall. That probably puts most projects in the city in context. And so far the Trust is committed to over $80 million of funds. The fourth is heritage skills. The ability of the entire supply chain to work within a heritage environment is very limited, and there's a very large learning curve that comes about with that. And we've sought to build a culture of care for these buildings so that we do this work in a way which doesn't undermine and cause damage to the buildings. And then finally, the long term. As a custodian of a site that will have a perpetual life, I've got a very different set of drivers from any other developers or owners that you've seen or heard today. I'm acutely aware of and driven by the community purpose of the Arts Centre and the role that it plays in our lives. And I'm determined that one day it'll be like this again. As a city, though, we do need to embrace and confront the challenges around managing our built heritage. Adaptive reuse of heritage is essential for owners to enable buildings to have a life that's enduring, and for these assets in our community to be vital and living assets. So I guess what I'd like to finish by saying is that it's all happening. By the middle of next year, we'll be able to have people back at the site. There will be parts of the site that reactivate this year, but it's good. Have faith, and I hope you enjoy it in the future.